to the official CNU Study Abroad podcast, Boarding All Captains. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode with Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Sarah, will you tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you studied abroad?
Sure. So I'm a senior English and theater double major with a focus in stage management. So I work in technical theater, and I studied abroad on the CNU in Scotland program at University of Glasgow in the spring of my junior year.
Great. What made you want to go to Glasgow for your CNU study abroad trip?
I picked it out at the study abroad fair my freshman year, basically right away. Firstly, because I knew that my financial aid would transfer. That was a big selling point. Also, at the time, I was planning to go my sophomore year, and there was a theater professor who was planning to go. But I'm still glad that I picked that one because a lot of the reasons why I chose it were still relevant. Like, my classes transferred back very easily, and it's just a very easy destination because we have such a strong partnership with the University of Glasgow.
Yeah, and then you also went on another shorter trip, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
So I did the summer Oxford trip, the Honors 335, the Good Society, but I actually went to Rome because my group went the summer of 2021, and the UK was still closed to visitors. We would have had to do a 2-week quarantine, which is the entire length of the program. So we kind of last minute moved it to Rome. Obviously, the study abroad office helped us hugely with that, and I wouldn't have traded that experience for anything.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, getting to spend a few weeks in Rome. I've been there myself, and I mean, there's a lot of tourists, but it's a beautiful city, so.
Absolutely beautiful. We did so much sightseeing. We had a lovely gluten-free restaurant that we went to because Dr. Kidd was gluten-free. We went there 3 times on our trip, and I actually went back to Rome while I was traveling during my Scotland study abroad. I went back to the same restaurant, had the same waiter, and he remembered our group.
Wow. Wow. Talk about making an impact.
Right?
Yeah. What was your favorite part about studying abroad?
Ooh, big question. I think probably my favorite part was just being in Europe, even though Scotland is in the UK, so it's on the island. Being there made me a lot more connected to mainland Europe. It made it a lot easier to travel. I was able to travel very cheaply multiple times throughout the program, so it really allowed me to experience so many different cultures, even though I was studying abroad in just one place.
Wow, that sounds so nice. So how many countries do you feel like, not that you have to count right now, but like you got to visit a lot. So how did you plan, your schedule, or was it very last minute and you decided where you wanted to go for the weekend?
I planned ahead a lot. I didn't do any weekend trips, but the schedule in Scotland was very different from how it is here. We had a week-long break around the time of midterms, like halfway through our classes in February, which I know doesn't sound like it should be midterms. And during that, I had planned a trip to go to London and Rome. And then our classes ended at the end of March, so we were completely done then. And then we had a month-long spring break during which I traveled to, I think, 7 different cities.
Wow.
In 5 different countries. So I went to France, Spain, Italy, Austria, and the Czech Republic. I started planning that pretty much as soon as I got to Scotland because I knew I wanted to visit a lot of places, and I picked my destinations based on what would be cheapest. So that helped me save a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is it seems like you were able to not only spend a lot of time in your country of study abroad, but also travel other places. How did you budget for your study abroad trip?
Yeah, like I said, I picked places based on where it would be cheapest, and I knew ahead of time that I wanted to travel a lot while I was there, so I kind of set aside a chunk of money that I was only saving for travel, and then I made sure that my travel fit within that budget, and then the rest of the money I was able to spend on my actual time in Scotland. And I say this every time I talk about it, but I had a flight from Venice to Vienna that was literally $8. So if you want to travel cheaply around mainland Europe, you can travel cheaply around mainland Europe.
Was that Ryan flight?
Ryanair,
yeah. So how long was that flight?
Maybe an hour,
Wow,
hour and 15.
$8.
I mean,
that's a deal. Wow.
Yeah, all those cities are so close together, so whether it's a train, a bus, or a plane, you can get pretty easily around from one to the next.
How did you balance the academic life of studying abroad with getting to travel? Because clearly you got to travel to a lot of different places.
Yeah, so like I said, the layout of the semester made it really easy because we were done with classes in March. We had a month-long spring break, and then our finals were spread out across the whole month of May, and none of mine needed to be turned in person. They were all essays or portfolios or whatever. And so I was even able to travel during the month of finals because I had so much time to myself. So the structure of the semester in Scotland really allowed for that, and I kind of front loaded my schoolwork during like January through March, and then that allowed me more freedom in the later months.
Yeah, it seems like you structured like being able to balance that earlier on and get it kind of all crammed and then able to really enjoy yourself traveling. So it seemed like a good technique.
So actually, there was a one time that I did not structure my schoolwork very well, which was that we had a planned excursion from like the CNU group in which we went to the Isle of Skye and the Highlands, and that was absolutely gorgeous. It was over a weekend, and I had a final essay due the day after we got back, and then the day after that, I was leaving for another trip to France. So I ended up writing the final essay all in that one day, and then like packing for my flight. It definitely was not the best essay I've ever written, but it was worth it.
How long was that essay?
I want to say like 10 pages.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, good
Hey,
for you.
I'm an English major. I'm used to it.
Yeah. What was your housing like, and what did you do for meals?
Sure. So the housing was provided for us by the university. The study abroad office took care of all that for us, so that was lovely, and it was included in our fee for the program. It was a flat with four other flatmates that I had. One of them was from CNU, and then there were three other international students. One was from South Korea, one was from China, and one was from Canada. So it was really cool. We got to talk to a lot of different people that were from different places. And we were in a building that also had other CNU students in it because they try to get us all in like nearby housing, and so we still had that kind of community there even though we were connected to other people.
So it was more like an apartment style rather than like a dorm.
Exactly. It definitely wasn't a dorm at all. It was an apartment. It just was probably a smaller apartment than what you get out of college.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that sounds like a fun experience.
For meals, I mainly bought groceries. There was a lovely organic food store around the corner from our housing called Roots and Fruits. Highly recommend.
It's a nice name.
Yeah, it was great. And so that was where I got most of my food. I did notice that like there's a lot less preservatives over there, and so food goes bad faster. So you have to buy smaller quantities more often rather than buying like a big load of groceries at the beginning of the week.
But it's healthier for you.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
less preservatives. Yeah, that I had the same experience. I had to grocery shop like every week for like fruits and veggies. Otherwise, it would go bad faster. But also, they were fresher. How did you spend your free time day to day?
So I had a lot of free time. Each of my classes only met once a week for a couple hours. They were all seminar style, so I had classes on 3 days of the week and 4 days off. I spent a lot of time in cafes and libraries. That was where I did the majority of my work. There was a lovely Glasgow Women's Library, was really cool, and lots of cafes around my housing that I would go to do homework. I would go out and explore a lot. There are a few great museums in the city of Glasgow, and just a lot of sites that you can see. Glasgow is not a typical tourist destination, so it doesn't have some of the things that you might want to find there, like the Edinburgh Castle, which we did end up going to visit in Edinburgh. But it's full of so much culture and life.
Is there any other way that you really felt like you personally grew from studying abroad? Now that you're back, you're kind of realizing.
Definitely. I grew a lot. I think study abroad came at just the right time for me. I was kind of floundering here. I didn't really know myself that well. And so going to a new place and being able to kind of completely reinvent myself, obviously I was still me, but I got to connect with new people, try so many new experiences. It really taught me a lot about myself. And like I said with the poetry class, it pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot. I did some solo traveling while I was there. And I was really nervous beforehand. I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it. I tried to find people to go with me, but they just didn't want to go to the same places as me. But then once I got there, literally within the first day, I met people in the city, I met people at my hostel, and I had such amazing experiences. So I think that study abroad really pushed me to be more comfortable talking to people, getting to know people, making friends, and just making connections with a lot of different people.
How do you feel like you made friends while you were there?
So like I said, I made some friends while traveling, and I'm actually, one of them invited me to his birthday party in Paris this summer. Not that I can afford to go,
That sounds
but
awesome.
it would be amazing, right? But while I was in Glasgow, I would say I made most of my friends like through classes. People definitely were interested in connecting. One of the courses I took was with a lot of other American students, so I met some other Americans through that. And then in my poetry class, I met the majority of people who I'm still friends with. We started going to these poetry open mic nights, and they would read their poetry, and eventually they pushed me into reading my
Glasgow.
own poetry.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, something that I never thought that I would do, something I never thought I would be comfortable with, but that became like this really empowering experience for me. And that's how I met the majority of my friends, was through those poetry nights. Going to different events, like I would see a poster at a cafe for something and I would be like, you know what, I'm just gonna go, and then I would meet people there. I met some friends through this like arts and crafts event that they would have weekly in the basement of a cafe, that kind of thing. So really just digging my teeth into every experience that was available to me, and then I would meet people at those same experiences who had the same interests as me. And I'm actually still friends with a lot of the people that I met who are locals to Glasgow, or locals. I met a lot of French students while I was there, and I'm going to visit them after I graduate in May. So
wow, yeah. See, as we know, you're a senior. So what are your plans for after you graduate CNU, and how did studying abroad help you get there?
Yeah, so as I said, the next thing on my list, 2 days after graduation, I am flying back to Scotland. I'm going to go stay with my friends for a week. I'm stopping in Iceland on my way back. Very exciting. And then after that, I'm looking to get into the publishing industry. So I feel that my study abroad really helped me to see how much more I could do with my English major. After I got back, I started doing research with one of my professors, and I really got a lot more involved in the English major, where previously I had been more involved in the theater major. But Scotland doesn't have a strong theater program, and I also just didn't really get involved with that side of things there. I also didn't work any jobs while I was there, whereas here I have 2 part-time jobs. So it really freed me up to like invest in my classes and studying English, and reminded me how much I love it. And so that kind of provided direction for me now as I'm graduating.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on Boarding All Captains, and we wish you the best of luck after you graduate, and I hope you have an amazing experience on your trip back to Scotland.
Thank you.